Welcome to Bald Guy DIY. In this video, I'll show you how I model, 3D print, and assemble a pan tilt mechanism for a remote camera project. So a lot of the projects I've posted lately about the ESP32 microcontroller involve things like controlling servos or using a joystick, that kind of thing. And those have been building towards a project that I'm doing that involves a remote pan tilt and zoom camera. In this video, I'm going to show you how I model, print, and assemble the pan and tilt mechanism and hook it up with the servos to get the directions and make sure the joystick control is all working the way that I want. So without further chit chat, let's get started. I did a lot of searching through the Thingiverse database, and I found this particular design that I really liked. It's just two pieces, and the servos mount directly to the pieces without the need of a lot of extra hardware, just one other screw needed to stabilize the motion of the tilt. And so I did print out that model and found that it's very, very tiny. Both pieces together fit inside the palm of my hand, and they use the smallest possible servo, which I was concerned wouldn't be enough for the weight and torque requirements of the camera. Instead, I wanted to use these larger servos. These are MG996Rs. I'll include a link in the description, and they were quite a bit bigger. Of course, I couldn't just scale them because they're not proportional with the smaller servos. I couldn't just scale them by making the pieces bigger, and so I need to remodel based on the design that I found on Thingiverse. I used SolidWorks to model the design, and I started with the top plate, which is going to be where the camera mounts directly. This is the underside of the plate, and I decided to make the plate about 100 millimeters square, and then following the same kind of design as that original, created the mounting posts so that the servo can mount directly to that. Now I already had the servos at this point, so I used my calipers and measured the basic size of them. But I also did find the same servo already modeled online, and I was able to download that and import it into SolidWorks in order to use the dimensions from the model. Now, when I first started out, having not used SolidWorks a whole lot, I just went back and forth between the windows for the servo model and my own model. But later I found it's actually much easier to use the assembly window to put both the models on the same screen and then use them directly instead. Once I had the top plate all dimensioned out and created, I shifted my focus to the bottom, and this is going to be where the side rails are, as well as the swivel for the pan action. Now, I started by modeling the hole here for how I wanted the servo horn to fit in there. I thought I would use the similar type design like they did in the original model, but I found that after playing with it quite a bit, I couldn't get the horn dimensions exactly that I wanted. And then I also found that there's a perfect nice round circle horn instead. After I spent all the time creating these longer arms, I instead created a model that used the round horn, which was much easier to dimension and make sure it was all correct. On this screen recording, you can see I left it here as I go on to the rest of the model, but at the very end you can see that I did switch to that rounder horn instead. Now I'm creating those side rails or arms that are going to connect to the top plate and just designing them in such a way that the overhang as I 3D print them will be tolerable and it won't create any issues. As you can see, when I'm done, here's what it looks like with that horn being round instead of just the arms sticking out, and the whole model does work pretty well and fits really well with the top plate. Those being done, I sent them to the 3D printer, and a few hours later I had both the components and they fit really well together. Now as I shift my focus to the final piece, which is the base of the whole thing, I made great use at the beginning here of using the chamfer tool to create the angle so that it steps up in a bit of a pyramid and gives me the nice mounting base that I can secure for mounting the whole contraption, but also tapers to the size that I want, which is 100 millimeters square. And then I cut out the space that I need for the servo. Here's where I combined all of the components into an assembly, and you can see here once I did that, I was able to import both servos, the top plate, the bottom plate, and the base, and then create those relationships so that I could see how they all fit together and make sure that all the dimensions work properly. The beautiful thing with this option is that you can edit the components individually from within the assembly window, which means that if the fit is not quite right, you can just double click, change up the dimensions on the sketch, and then rebuild the sketch so that all of the dimensions take effect and you can now work with those new and improved dimensions. When you go to save it, you just click the save command as you always would, and it asks you if you want to save all of the changes to those individual components as well. This makes interactivity between the parts so much easier, and from now on when I design, especially when using more than one component or where I can find a model of a piece of electronics equipment, I'm going to definitely use this because it makes the process so much easier with much less switching between windows and also a much better fit in the end. Often if I'd try something like this from scratch, I would have to print out multiple copies of the model and keep tweaking it in order to get it right. But after I modeled all of this and made sure that it fit perfectly within the assembly screen, I was able to print it just one time and it all fit great together. Once I have everything cut out and lined up, I'm going to shell the inside of that base so that it leaves room to install the rest of the components and uses less material. And then I'm just simply going to fit it all together with relationships here to make sure that the center of the shaft lines up with the center of the hole on the next component and so on, so that we can establish the relationships for swiveling and make sure that they all work well. As you can see here, once I have it set up, I have everything aligned so that if I were to move this base independently, it will actually swivel and maintain its position with the next component. And the way that I have the relationship defined, it does show that it can move up and down. Of course, the final model won't, but it gives you an idea that everything is lined up as it should. Here's how the tilt is going to work, with the shaft of the servo and the screw on the other side going to hold it in place. And there's two components, both the pan and the tilt. It gives you the full description. You can test out if they're going to collide anywhere and make your adjustments as you need to, and it works great. Had to do something a little bit unusual for me as I did the base because it's hollow inside. It did require some support, which you can see in the orange color, the darker orange color underneath, and that support is going to print so that the outer hole or the frame for that recessed servo is going to work just fine. I recessed the servo so that the top of it would be almost flush with the top of the base, which means that my components are going to fit closely together and will swivel with a lot of support for the model below. I printed that out. It took about 11 hours for the base, but it turned out great. Even without the support over the whole top, there's very little droop on the inside, as you can see here. There is a little bit on that first layer, but overall the support did its job perfectly. All the shapes and contours are visible, and the top surface of the base was perfect. I'm not going to show the assembly. It was pretty simple, but as you can see here, the servo shaft is holding one side of that tilt axis and secured with the horn, and the other side is secured by a simple machine screw and nut with some washers in between to reduce friction on the joint, and that's going to hold that axis for you. The code is similar to what I've done before. If you've checked out the video on servo or joystick controls, we need to import that ESP32 servo library and then set two servo objects, a tilt servo and a pan servo instead of just the one we did before. And then I'm going to create some variables for the position of the tilt and the pan, and then declare the pins for the tilt and the pan. In this case, I'm using pin 18 for the tilt, pin 19 for the pan, and 2, 4, and 5 for the joystick. As you can see here, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the switch. If you push down on the joystick, it does have a button or a momentary switch, and so that's defined there on pin 5. I need a variable to store the value of the x and y-axis, as well as the state of the button, so I declared those there. And then finally, I have 4 more variables which hold a scaling factor that I use to multiply by how many degrees I want to change. So if I would like the joystick to have variable control, that's how I accomplish that there. These default timers are built in as part of the example. It's to set up the PWM or pulse width modulation, and the frequency is 50 Hertz, which is the basic standard for these types of servos. I need to attach those servos to the particular pins and set the minimum and maximum PWM frequencies, and then I need to use the write command to set some default values so that under the setup function, it's going to create a default position. I originally set both of these values at 90, which is the center point of the servo, and then with them held at 90, I assembled the mechanism so that I could have everything in its midpoint. I put it all together, and then when I ran it, I found out that after aligning for the shaft of the servo, they were slightly out, and so I made my adjustments to 96 and 95 respectively for the tilt and pan in order to get them completely centered where I wanted them. In the loop function, I'm going to read the X and Y values of the joystick and also whether or not that button is being pushed. And then I'm going to map all of the scaling factors here so that they work properly, increasing or decreasing the speed. And I'm just going to go slow or fast, 1 times a degree or 2 times a degree in order to have a little bit of variability, but not too much. If you watch the video that I did on joysticks, you'll see how to set up all of these parameters because you basically get values from 0 to 4095 and you need to scale them properly in order to match the position of the joystick to what signal the Arduino is recognizing. All of those factors have been detailed in the previous video, so I'm not going to go over them here. If you need to refer to that, I'll have a link in the description below. Finally, I'm going to add one more condition which checks the state of the push button on the joystick. If it does detect that the button has been pushed, it's going to return the pan tilt mechanism to its default position, which should be nice and centered. I did choose to print out a few commands to the serial monitor, which helped me to determine the minimums and maximums that I wanted to use based on how much travel I wanted it to have on the pan and also the limitations for the travel on the tilt. If you don't put those kind of limitations in, or if you don't check carefully enough, you can cause the mechanism to turn farther than it should, and you can cause damage to the 3D printed parts or the servos themselves. Finally, you can adjust the delay to get the basic speed of the movement. If you put something as little as 15 milliseconds, you're going to get some very fast movement and a very quick response, but that's also going to look very jerky if you do hook up a camera to it. If you increase that, here I've used 100 as what I think will be a great speed. Here's what 15 looks like. It's very fast, very responsive, but you can also imagine your head spinning as you are watching the video created by this. And then, of course, if you press the joystick button, it resets the center position. By comparison, here's what it looks like for 50 milliseconds in that delay, which is a much slower, much more controlled movement, and it feels not quite as jerky or disorienting. Once again, if you push the joystick button, it will return to the center position. Finally, here's what 100 millisecond delay looks like. And as I said, this is the one that I anticipate using for now. Until I see the actual camera installed, I might change it up. But for now, this is what I think will be smooth and comfortable motion for most people to watch. If you go too slow or add too much delay, you're going to get jerky motion because the servo will have time to come to a complete stop before it moves to the next position. And 100 milliseconds feels like it's right on the edge of that. If you go too much slower, you're going to see that hesitation. When I install this, it's probably actually going to be upside down, mounted to the ceiling. And so as you can see here, if you turn it upside down and flip your joystick around, all of the directions still work perfectly, and it's just going to work the same way, but of course your directions just being switched. Pushing down on the joystick, again, returns it to center. I really like that feature, although I'll probably add some speed controls so that it does it a little bit slower in my final product. And that's it. If you've been watching along week by week, you probably wondered if these servos were ever going to get anywhere, but now you can see they actually control something useful, and when combined together give us both the pan and tilt action for this camera project. I'm also going to be adding one more servo down the road that adjusts the zoom for the camera, but I don't have the camera yet. It's on order, and it's going to require a specific calibration and setup, and I don't know until I have it exactly how that's going to work. My next video with the ESP32 is going to show off communication between 2 different microcontrollers so that I can use the joystick on one microcontroller and then wirelessly convey the servo position to another microcontroller where the camera is located. I've got a bunch of other features in mind for this project, including some buttons that will store positions of the camera, and then when you press them, will simply return to those stored positions. So if you've ever wanted to build one of these pan and tilt mechanisms, and you want to see the added features as they come, just keep checking back. I might not post one of those videos every week, but as I get through the project, I'll post more and more until the final project is complete. If you like the videos that I'm making, please consider subscribing to the channel, give this video a thumbs up,
and tell friends and family, as I always like to see new comments and emails coming in. Keep checking back every Saturday morning as I post a new video every week, and I can't wait to get started on the rest of this project. When it's done, I'm going to be so excited. Until next time, however your projects pan and tilt, don't be afraid to be balder.